My name is Chelsey Williams. My struggle was grief from losing my mom. I lost my mom to a stroke, a series of strokes. It was due to her diabetes, but we found that out at the very last stroke. That's also how my grandfather died, and he died when my mom was 19. She passed the same way that he did, but she passed at 55. And so she made it a lot longer than he did, and we thought that because we were ahead and she took her medicine regularly, that it wouldn't hit her. My mom has 3 siblings, and 3 out of the 4 have diabetes. And so they've all stayed on top of it, so we just never saw it coming. My sophomore year of high school, she had her very first stroke. She felt blurriness. While I was at school, she called me like, hey, I'm at work and I'm kind of seeing double and things are blurry, but it's probably nothing, I'll be fine. So she worked through that day. Came home, was still blurry, went to sleep, which is something you should not do. Woke up the next morning and still saw blurred vision. And so we took her to the hospital and found out that she had a stroke. She had strokes probably every like 4 to 6 months after that. One of the biggest things that happened, she had a stroke while just her and I were home. She was in our attic and she lost herself and fell through the ceiling. It truly sounded like an elephant had crashed. And so I didn't know what to do at the moment because I didn't know if it was real. I hear her screaming like faintly. So of course I called 911 and they got her to the hospital. But when she fell on top of a Windex bottle. And God had saved her from dying in that moment. She would have broken her neck completely. And when she fell, Travis's Green Made a Way was playing. And so we played that throughout any time she was in the hospital. But truly, like in that moment, God showed us that she had saved her that time. So because of that, I thought she would make it out of various things, but her health did progressively get worse. First with her ability to walk. And that was hard because I had just got engaged and she wanted to walk me down the aisle as she was my primary caregiver for the majority of my life. And so I knew that if she could walk me down the aisle, that it would be a testament to her healing and getting better. But that unfortunately was not the case. But I was still very grateful to have my mom there. With strokes, secondly comes the loss of emotions. And so if she was happy, sad, or confused, she cried. And so something good would happen and she would just start weeping. And it was really difficult to deal with and to sit in because I never knew what emotion my mom was truly feeling. But we were still there, still loved her through it. But the very last thing was her ability to speak. And that was in the last couple of months. And so I would try and get her to write, tried to get her to, do gestures, but it wasn't working. And so I was very angry from it. Didn't think the last time I heard my mom's voice would be the last time. And so that was really, really painful to deal with. I'm currently in counseling, and I found out that from that point on, in my mind, I had killed my mom every time I saw her. So when I left my mom's house, I thought that would be the last time I saw her. And I cried every time as if it was the last time. She did not end up dying when I thought she would, but I was so scared. And so yes, I spent all the time with her that I could, but I was so afraid in the moment that I wouldn't see her the next time that I went to go visit her. My mom was able to make it to my wedding. She had the best time. She was absolutely gorgeous. And so it was just another event that I hoped and thought she would make it out of. But she passed 4 months after I got married. I was grateful to be with her the day she passed, but I truly thought we could pray her out of it. And so my sister just happened to come from Cincinnati, and it truly was God ordained because there was no other reason that she should have been there. And we felt like my mom was holding out to make sure both her girls could see her before she passed. And so we spent the entire day with her, prayed her through. Her skin was cold. my sister is a nurse, and she let us know that she could still hear us and see all the things, and that to not be negative. So we just prayed with her, we sang with her, I shared memories with her. I just thanked her for being such a good mom, because she was the best mom I could have asked for. And so when she took her last breath, we just held her hand, and I brushed her hair, and I got her ready to be taken to the hospital. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to endure, but I'm so glad that I was with her and that I did not get a phone call, because I could not imagine not being with my mother as she took her last breath. It's something that haunts me. It's something that I will always cherish, because she wasn't alone and she knew that she was loved. So coping while she was alive versus coping while she had passed. That's what I meant. So coping while she was alive, did not. Just brushed it aside. The day she passed, I did not think. So she passed, I called all family members. My first phone call after that was to my best friend Arian, who then called Pastor and Mrs. Choi. I talked to them, and we made sure we got like all of the legal stuff done. I probably didn't make it home till 1 a.m. The moment I walked in the house, I screamed. I mean, it was like bloody murder. I just screamed, I want my mom. And for probably 2 hours after, that's all I did. I didn't want to eat, sleep, breathe. I told my husband there was no point in living anymore. And I said that when she was alive. I said, if she goes too early, just bury me next to her. I want to go with her. I knew in that moment that I couldn't do that. And so I just didn't. So for those who know my mom, I look just like her. I am her twin. To brush my teeth, to do my hair, to take a shower, anything that involved a mirror, I didn't want to do it. It was very hard to function, because every time I had to look in the mirror, I had to be reminded that I looked just like her, and she wasn't here anymore. And so I did it. Sometimes I would put something over the mirror so I wouldn't have to look at myself. But I just didn't want to be reminded that the person who made me, the person who gave me the face I have, is no longer here. My community surrounded me. I had friends fly in. I had friends stay with me from sunup to sundown. But all I did was drink. So I didn't want to feel, and I didn't. I drank so much that I never got drunk. So probably after the first week, I don't even think that I was drunk anymore, because my tolerance was that high. And it was every day, all day. I don't think we left the house other than to maybe grab food for the first 3 weeks. I think the first day I didn't drink was the day of her funeral. I was very coherent there. I felt all the things. But then I went back home and we drank that night after her repast. And it was just what I did. I went back to work probably a month after, and so I slowed down. But when I got home, it was the first thing I did. I just grabbed a glass and drank away. I stopped drinking the day before I took a pregnancy test, and I actually found I was pregnant, I think 5 days earlier than I should have. And I just felt that something was off. And I said to a friend, I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant, with the glass in my hand. And they said, Chelsey, do you think you should drink that? And I said, if so, I probably should take this last one. And so I did. I was like, if he's in there, I hope I don't hurt him, because I'm definitely going to drink. And I did. And I drank that night. That next day I took a test and I was pregnant. I chose to exchange my grief and sadness for joy. When I found out I was pregnant, my very first doctor's appointment, I found out that my due date was the same date that my mother passed. And so to me, I was like, okay, cool. So they passed each other. They literally took turns. And I wept in that doctor's office. Although Mason did not come the day my mother passed, he was shy 6 days. And he is everything that my mother is and was. I found out when my mother became a single mother after a nasty divorce that she told my aunt she didn't want to live anymore. But she had no choice, because she had 2 beautiful girls. And she chose us every single day. I never knew that we lacked. I never knew that she struggled financially. She was the most creative and expressive and thought-provoking mother. She truly was a gem. And so I learned through her to put my child first, always still looking in and figuring out myself, learning how to love myself. But I did that through him. I, again, put down the bottle, and it was the best decision I made because it gave me a chance to give birth to a beautiful boy who deserves the best from me. My husband and I are doing our best to foster a really, really great childhood for him. And I'm grateful for my community. When he was a newborn, I have pictures of my mom all around my house. And as a newborn, he would often point at the largest picture I have of her. And I'm like, there's no way you know who that is. But he pointed at it all the time. And I'm like, yep, they had to have passed. It is still very, very hard. It was very hard in the beginning. When I had ultrasound pictures, I just wanted to call and show my mom. I wanted to call and tell her that he had a very large head or that he was a certain number of pounds, but I couldn't. But I'm very grateful that I had people in my life who would step in and hold that space for her, never taking her space, always honoring her space. But I think if I didn't have my community to help me while I was pushing through, I wouldn't be here today. His first birthday was the hardest. I set up all his stuff, set his toys out, set up balloons. My mom was big on tradition. So I was like, let me start a tradition with my son. I set it all up. I looked at it and I started weeping. And I was like, this is exactly what Tammy would have done. And I just wish that she could have been there to see it. But I know that she's there in spirit. I also know that my mother is always with me. Long story short, I did not graduate in 2017 when I should have because of one class. I found out after graduation that it did not transfer over. I don't regret anything from my mother's death. I don't regret anything from our relationship, but the fact that I did not take that one class. And she hounded me all the time. When she found out, she was like, so we're gonna pay to get that class. So I said, no, I'm not going back to school. I refused. She, a year ago, visited who is now the dean of the college. She was my professor at the time. She called me weeping. She said, your mom has come to me in my dream 3 nights. And she said, do whatever you have to do to give my daughter her degree. And so the first day she was like, I'm going to help try and cut down some of the costs for Chelsey because I went to an expensive school. The second night she was like, Tammy, here again. The third night she called me and she said, I'm mailing you your degree. Your mother has petitioned on your behalf. And so I cried a lot. Is she here? Does she love me? Do our ancestors truly follow us and watch us, and are they with us? And that was the biggest indicator that my mother still fights on my behalf, that she still loves me and she still sees me. So I now have a bachelor's of education because my mother petitioned on my behalf for one class. Again, that wasn't even in my track. It was a gen ed. But she made sure that the one thing that I regretted, that is done.